Hello and Shabbat Shalom to you. Hope that you are having a lovely week and that you are planning on ending that week into a beautiful and peaceful Shabbat. This week we end the book of Genesis, the book of Bereshit. We end the 4-week-long conversation we have had about Joseph and his brothers. It comes to a close for us in the Torah portion called Vayechi. It's here behind me. And there are a lot of components that are in this Torah portion because essentially it's all of Genesis, all pushed and compartmentalized into this end section in Torah portion, because starting next week, we leave Genesis and go right into Exodus. And Exodus, that starts the whole story with Moses. And so everything has to fit into this Torah portion, and there's a lot going on. So first of all, Jacob dies. He's brought back to Egypt because last week we find out exactly the whole story, and we know that Joseph is in charge, and so Jacob is brought to be in Egypt, and he is there. This is also the famous section where Ephraim and Manasseh, the sons of Joseph, get blessed by Jacob, and they are the only children in the Bible that the siblings that get along, because even though the younger is blessed over the older, they don't care, and so they go down in the books as Ephraim and Manasseh instead of Manasseh and Ephraim. So that's in this week's Torah portion. And then there's a whole section where it really is an explanation about the middle line of the Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto. That line, by the way, there is a discussion that perhaps comes from this week's Torah portion, from Torah portion of Vayechi. So just keep that in the back of your mind, because that's what we're going to be talking about probably tomorrow morning at Torah study. But in this week's Torah portion, there's also these blessings, like I mentioned, that Jacob gives to all of his children and assigns. And then this fascinating ending where Jacob dies, then ministers of the Pharaoh's ministers and the Pharaoh and everyone travels to Merat HaMachpelah, to the cave of Machpelah in Hebron, that you remember Abraham purchases, so that there will be a plot of land to bury Sarah, and for the perpetuation of the story, for us to have that spot that is still ours today, that you can still go visit. So on this Shabbat, I just want us to reflect on all of Genesis, reflect on all the things that we've covered, all the pieces that we've discussed, all the way, by the way, from the creation story. So we start with creation. We start with nothing, with just God's presence, essentially, and it takes us all the way into the relationship structure that exists between Joseph and his brothers as we exit essentially the book of Genesis and move into the exit the book of Genesis and enter the book of Exodus. So the only reflection that I'll ask us to really do is in the moment of blessings, because it's a Torah portion filled with blessings where, like I mentioned, Jacob blesses his children. So this can be a beautiful Shabbat of blessing, particularly for children or grandchildren, niece, nephews, any family, friends. This would be a great Shabbat to just appreciate them as a blessing in our lives, and also find ways to bless them, because that's what we do at the end of the Torah portion. So not only is it says Vayechi behind me, but also says from strength to strength, right? Because when we complete a book of Torah, we always say that we go from strength to strength, because we go from the end of the book of the Torah, the end of a book of the Torah into another book of the Torah. We say chazak, v'nid chazek, from essentially from strength to strength. So may we all go from strength to strength as we transition from this end of Genesis into the book of Exodus. May we also find lots and lots of blessings. soon, in a few hours, services at 6:30, and then tomorrow morning our discussion of Vayechi, our last Torah portion, the book of Genesis, at 8:30 for our Torah discussion and for our service. Shabbat Shalom.